Hi everybody, Mindy here. I wanted to do a video for my website to explain the differences between my Mindy's Magic EA version 56, which has been out for about 5 years, and my newest iteration of that, which was so different it really deserved to have a name change. So now the new EA is called the MegaMagic EA, okay? And you'll see why when I explain the differences. It's really fantastic, the advancement that we've made over the last 5 years. But anyway, I finished the MegaMagic EA in December, and I started a new, now this is a demo account, but it trades just like a live account would, and I am trading this on some live accounts, but I stopped posting my live accounts on the internet because I have too much trouble with people trying to hack my stuff all the time. So I don't put my live accounts on the websites, okay? But this is a demo account. But you can see here that I opened this demo account on December 9th of 2023, and I deposited a total in this account of $10,000. Now, the reason I put $10,000 in it is because you want to trade demo accounts that are essentially the same amount that you would trade a live account with. And when I start new live accounts, which I do probably 4 or 5 times a year for different reasons, I always start with $10,000. Okay, now the MegaMagic EA, as with the Mindy's Magic version 56, you don't have to start with $10,000. You know, these EAs are scalable, but I really wouldn't use them on accounts with less than $2,000. Okay, because they don't scale down very well when you get down to trading accounts that only have like $500 or $600 in them. It's just you know, the math just doesn't work at that point. But what we see here is that the first trade that went into this account went in on the 13th of December. Okay, and this is a chronological order of all of the trades that have been in and out of this account in that time. Now, you can see that with both of my EAs, both the Mindy's Magic version 56 and MegaMagic, the EA tells you in the comments everything that it's doing, okay? And so it's telling you if it's making an original trade, if the trade needs a hedge, and if there's a quick fixer involved. But as we scroll down through this history, what we find at the end, when we get down here to the end, is that as of today, and today is February 10th, today's Saturday, but as of February 9th, when trading ended, this account had made $5,580 of booked profit since it started trading, okay, and it's been trading essentially 2 months, a few days less than 2 months, because it started in December, right? December 13th to January 13th to February 10th. So on the 13th of February, which still has a couple of days to go here, it's made $5,580 of booked profit. Okay, you can also see here that it started with a $10,000 deposit. There's been no withdrawals, obviously, because it's a demo account. So the total in the account right now is $15,580. But what that represents is that this is the MegaMagic EA, has made over 50% profit in 2 months. Okay, so if you carry that on out for a year, then what you would expect to see would be about $5,000 of profit every 2 months, which means every 4 months it should double from the $10,000, right? So over the course of a year, you would fully expect to make about 300% on this trading account, doing just what it's doing now, right? But of course, as you know, not every month is the same. You have slow weeks and you have real busy weeks. A lot of that is totally dependent on what the financial markets are doing overall and the world economies are doing, right? Because there are certain times of the year when things kind of slow down for a while, and then other times of the year when financial markets get very active. But so the first thing I wanted to show you is that over the course of essentially 2 months, the account is already up over 50%. Now, the more important thing that I wanted to show you today is I'm going to go ahead and close this terminal window for now, because what I want to do is come up here and open the strategy tester. Now, the thing about Forex trading is, as you know, past results can never be a promise of future results, right? But by the same token, the only way we have to judge how an EA is going to produce in the future is by looking at the past results. So past results are not a promise, but past results are the best indicator that we have of how an EA will perform in the future. So what I'm doing in MetaTrader 4, all of my EAs are built for MetaTrader 4, not MetaTrader 5. Okay, and there's lots of reasons for that, but I won't go into all of that in this video. But in MetaTrader 4, there is something called a strategy tester. And so the strategy tester, which you can open, anybody can open it and use it, what it does is it gives you a picture of how an EA would perform historically. So if I wanted to get a good indication of how this EA is going to perform, I need to give it at least a couple of years of history, because if you pull out any one month in particular, that might have been a slow month, or it might have been a really busy month, right? So what I've done here is I have the strategy tester set up to test my new EA, the MegaMagic EA 2024 version 1, okay? And with the strategy tester, you can only test one pair at a time. I can't have the strategy tester test all 13 of the pairs that I trade at one time. We have to do them one at a time. So I've selected the AUD-USD pair, okay? And I'm telling it that I want it to test from the start date of January 1st, 2022 and the end date of 12/31/2023. So that's a full 2-year period, okay? And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to tell it what set file to use in this test, okay? So what I've done is I've selected the set file that I use, which for this, it's the set file for the AUD-USD pair. And so I click OK on that. Now, because the market is currently closed, it's Saturday, the spreads right now are very wide because it's a weekend. And on these little dashboard boxes, we can see that the current spread is 5.3, and that's because the spread is very wide on the weekend, okay? But typically, the spread on AUD-USD is usually something under 1 pip wide, right? So what we're going to do to be reasonable about the strategy test is we're going to pretend that the spread is 2 pips wide. Okay, now 2 pips wide would be actually a pretty wide spread for this pair. So in actuality, we're probably going to get fewer trades than what we would have gotten if the market was on right now and I was doing the strategy test and we were using the current spread, because the current spread would be probably right now somewhere around 0.8 to maybe 1.1 at the most, maybe as low as 0.1. So anyway, we're using 2 for the spread, and then all we're going to do is tell it to start the test. Now, as it starts the test, we can go to the graph and it shows you what it's doing is it's starting back in January of 2022 and it's pretending to make all these trades that the EA is finding using this set file. Now, as this graph builds, what you can see is sometimes the heavy blue line is the balance in the account. The green line is the equity in the account. And as you know, every trade that you open automatically opens at a negative because of the spread, right? So you have to, your trade has to work its way through the spread before your trade becomes profitable. So when you see these dips where the green line is dipping below the equity, the balance line, it means that the equity is going down a little bit because you opened a trade and it's going negative before it goes positive. And then when you see the two lines converge again, it means that you've closed a trade for a profit. And so the equity and the balance are the same thing. Okay, so what we see, and sometimes we actually have equity above the balance line. And that's because of the way my EA works, because it not only creates trades when it needs to hedge the trades because they're too negative, it will hedge them, and it will also create what we call a quick fixer trade that corrects those hedged situations. But what we can see if we go to the settings tab, we are not finished yet with this test, and we can go to the graph and we can see it is still building. 2 years is a long time, so it takes a little while for the test, the strategy test, to go through that whole time, right? Now we can also see in the results, starting at the top of the list, every trade that entered and exited. So what we have here is a complete list of all of the trades that the EA found to make in this pair during that time period. Now, if you heard that little squeak a minute ago, that was telling us that our test is over. See, the green bar has gotten all the way to the end. So if we want to report, it generates a report to tell us exactly what happened, okay? And what we see is that there were 50,736 price bars that it measured in this test, and it tells us that we didn't have any mismatched chart errors, which is a good thing because that would screw up the test results, right? It's telling us the initial deposit was $10,000. The total net profit was $11,966. Okay. The gross profit was $18,120. Okay, but you're probably saying, well, why is the gross profit more than the net profit? Because the gross profit is including all of the trades, and then we have gross loss of $6,153. Those are the hedge trades that closed for a loss, but they still closed for a profitable outcome because they were offset by a quick fixer. Okay, so the net profit for this one pair, this is only doing AUD/USD, for the 2-year period was $11,966. Okay, that's a profit factor of 2.94. Okay, there was an absolute drawdown of $2,074 and a maximum drawdown again of $2,074, which was 20.75%. So what that means is that the biggest negative drawdown the entire 2 years was 20%. Okay, now the thing is, there was 154 trades during that time, and then it breaks down how many of them were long positions and short positions, right? And it tells you what your largest trades were for your wins and your losses, and it just gives you all the details. But the important numbers here are how many trades did it make during that time? What was the total net profit, which would be this line right here, and what was the maximum drawdown percentage, which is right here. Okay, now let me show you why there is a gross loss and a gross profit and then a net profit. When we go to the results, what I'm going to do to make this easier to see is I'm going to bring in these columns so that they're closer together so that I can see them better, because when they're all strung out across the page like that, it's very hard for me to see them. But like I said, these trades are in chronological order. Now the thing is, when we start at the top of the list, so I've scrolled this up to the top, what we see is we had a trade number 1 that opened, and my EA automatically puts a profit target on that trade. But we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had quite a few trades that opened before anything closed. So here was the first thing that closed. It was trade number 17, and it closed for a loss. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the first trade that closed was actually a hedge trade that closed. But we see the very next line was a very large profit, $510. That was a quick fixer trade that bought off this hedge. Okay, so our chart, when we look at the graph, what we see way down here at the front, right? This was that trade, that first trade going negative before it got positive. And that's what that little dip in the green line is. But when we go to the results, any time you see a negative profit in the profit column, that is always a hedge trade. And the next trade that closes, usually they're right next to each other. Sometimes something will slip in between them, but the next trade that you see will be the quick fixer trade. And the quick fixers always make more profit than the hedge loses, so you have a profitable outcome between the hedge and the quick fixer. So the next thing that closed was again a negative, meaning it was a hedge. But the next thing we find is the quick fixer that bought it off, so that we again have a profitable outcome. And again, here's 2 negative trades in a row, 2 hedges that closed. So we should expect to see 2 larger profit trades. So we had 2, let me try to get this all in one screen. There we had this negative, and then we had the 2 positives. Now here was a trade that was just a plain original trade that closed. Here we had another hedge and another just plain original trade, and then here's the quick fixer for this hedge. Now sometimes this happens where some other original trade will close and sneak in between a hedge closure and a quick fixer closure, but that's okay. But anyway, every time you see a trade that closes for a loss, here we had a long run of trades that didn't hedge. They just all closed profitably there for a long time. So when we're looking at our graph, that was probably right in through here where we had a whole bunch of trades in a row that didn't hedge or quick fix, right? And so we'll go back to our results and keep scrolling down. And what we see is that every single time we have a hedge that closes, we have a quick fixer that will close in close proximity to that trade, which will be more profitable than the hedge was negative. And so anyway, you've got all of your data there for all of the trades that went in and out and in and out. And I mean, the list is very long because it's 2 years worth of time. But here's what the graph looks like. This is just for one pair, okay, and over a 2-year time frame. And then here's the report, which shows you that it was, for this pair over 2 years, $11,966 of profit. Okay, now what I have done on this is I've also created this Excel spreadsheet where I broke this down and literally tested each month of this 24-month period individually. Okay, so I have January of 2022, where the net profit for that 1 month was $1,119 off of 14 trades. And there, right there, is our big negative drawdown of 20%, which was the highest that it got at any time during that 2-year period. Okay, in the month of February of 2022, this pair only made $479 off of 6 trades with a 1.1% drawdown. That's almost no drawdown at all. Now here was a month in April of 2022 where this pair, AUD-USD, using this set file, didn't make any trades at all. Okay, so anyway, you can see the breakdown month by month by month. Now, at the bottom, on the total line here, what I did is I literally just added up all of the profits from each month individually, okay, and added them up. But this next line is a straight run through. Meaning, see, with these month by months, I was pretending that I was going to end the trading at the end of each month, which I did in the strategy test. Just a second, I gotta go over here and click on something real fast. Got it, just in time. Okay, so anyway, there would have been trades, if they had stayed in, would have been more profitable because they would have literally carried over from 1 month to the next. So the straight run through total right here is if I started the EA on January 1st and did not stop it at all until December 31st of the next year. So that's why this number right here, this 11,966, is the exact same total, obviously, as the total net profit for the strategy test that I just did. Okay, so that's how the EA runs on one pair. Okay, now what I've done though is I haven't just tested this one pair. What I have is this spreadsheet where I have all of the pairs. I trade 13 pairs with this EA, and I've done the same type of testing for all of the pairs that I trade. Now, what you can see is that sometimes when we're doing just 1 month at a time, we have a situation where for that month, this pair actually had a loss, okay? Now, what would happen in real life if you had these trades that had a loss? Well, I would just leave those trades open myself. That's what I would do, because most of the time those trades are going to come out just fine if you just leave them alone, okay? And let them have the time to work themselves out. But what we can see is on the USD pairs, over that course of 2 years of time, we really didn't have any months that wouldn't have closed for profit. Most of those situations where we have the big red numbers, we have here, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I hope I didn't, yeah, I didn't screw it up. We had 1, 2, 3 situations. I think there's, and then here's the USD JPY. It had 2 situations. So over the course of the last 2 years, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 situations that would have actually ended a month at a negative number. Okay, so then over here on the right side of the spreadsheet, what I've done is I've gone through and I've said, okay, well, the strategy tester is testing 1 month at a time. What would happen if all 13 of the pairs were running at the same time? So I take all of the strategy tests combined, right? And so for the month of January of the year 2022, the EA would have made $1,457 that month, running all 13 pairs, off of a total of only 17 trades. And the maximum drawdown during that month would have been, at most, 23.84%, which isn't really very accurate because not all of the pairs are going to have their most negative trade going on at the same time. But if they did, then this would be the maximum drawdown that would happen, right? Now, also, in the month of January of 2022, there were actually only 4 pairs that month that made trades at all, out of the 13 pairs, which is why we trade 13 pairs. They don't all make trades every month, okay? So anyway, we've got all the data that you would need. Now, the totals, if you were going to close out everything at the end of every month, the total for those 2 years would have been $48,981 off of 748 trades. Okay, now if you would have left it straight through, a straight run through, meaning that you would have let these negative situations roll over into the next month and close themselves, which they would eventually, the total was $48,686. So it was a little bit different. Had more trades, but the trades overall weren't quite as profitable. And then if you wanted to know the 2 years individually, the year 2022 would have made $55,736, and the year 23 would have made $22,419. Okay, so anyway, that's what we've done with the statistics on this so that you can easily see how the EA makes the money that it makes. So let's go ahead and run through one more of these just so you can watch how those charts develop and see that the results are going to be the same. Usually, sometimes they might be off a little bit when I'm doing this strategy test months after the first one I did. But let's just scoot over here on our spreadsheet to the Euro USD pair. Now, to set up the strategy test for this pair, I have to change the symbol. So I'm going to pick Euro USD, and then I also have to pick the right set file for Euro USD. See, all of the pairs have their own unique personalities. They all trade a little bit differently than each other. So when we're developing these set files, we have to customize the set files for each pair individually so that we get the best results that we can, right? So I'm going to go to the presets folder, and I'm looking for the set file 28002DND. And of course, I have codings for all of these set file names that you really wouldn't understand, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about that. But I find the set file that matches the results that I've already posted. And so I'll go to OK there. I actually did the spreadsheet in December, in early December, so might be off a little tiny bit. So anyway, we're going to OK that. We're going to use the same date range that we used before, which is the 2-year period from January 1st of 2022 to December 31st of 2023. And then we're going to go over here, and we've got the right set file, got the right date range. Again, we're going to use the spread as 2 pip spread, and then we're going to start this test. Now, as we go, I like to go to the graph first because it will start making its lines as soon as the strategy tester is finding a trade. And see, it looks like on this one it found 2 trades that got profitable right off the bat, and then it looks like this next trade we had one, or it looks like several trades that actually kind of went ugly for a while before those quick fixers came in and bought them off. That's what's happening when you see these jiggy jags in here. Now here we probably had, again, a couple of trades, maybe 2 or 3, that were all ugly at the same time in this pair. But as we're moving on across, we see that this pair got off to kind of a rocky start. But when we go over here to the settings, we see that we still have a lot of trading left in the strategy test, right? And if we want to go to the results, we can go to the results. Again, I really like to pull these columns closer together just to make it easier to see them all. Oops, didn't want to change that. We want to have them sorted by time. And see how this scale is going up. That means it's building lots of trades. But it looks like it didn't put the first trade in until February 24th. So this pair didn't make any trades in the month of January. And it goes through, and all of the trades are listed. Again, it's the same thing. When you see a negative trade, you will see a very positive trade following it. When this hedge closed for negative $297, the quick fixer closed for $658. So we actually made about $350 of profit by holding a bad trade, which hedged, right? So that's the thing about my Magic EAs, whatever version you're considering, is they never close any situation for a negative outcome. It is always a positive outcome. Always. Every time. Okay? So anyway, this is going down. If we scroll to the bottom, we can tell that as of right now, it has... Well, okay, there was the end of the line. But I was going to show you how you can keep track of how far it is and it was at 11.7 when I stopped it, but yeah, it looks like that 11.7, November 7th of 23, was the last trade in this chain, or this pair. So anyway, what we can see on the chart, okay, we see that it got off to kind of a rocky start, you know, there the first part of 2022, and then it mellowed out, and then it really didn't have a lot of trades that went very ugly after that. Had a very strong finish the last couple of months. If we go to the report, what we see is that for the Euro USD pair, okay, here it is on our spreadsheet, the total net profit was, for the 2 years, was 12,939. Now, the last time I ran this strategy test was in December, okay, and in December, it's saying that it had $13,007. So and right now it's showing that same time period was 12,939. Okay, and you will see differences like this sometimes, because, you know, when you're running the strategy test 3 months later, the numbers can be a little bit different, but not significantly, because this is saying that we had 107 trades during that time frame, and over here the prior test on it said we had 109. Okay, not anything significant. Okay, the maximum drawdown percentage is showing currently at 36.03%, which is exactly the same as what we have on our spreadsheet. So I don't know, I really don't know how to account for the fact that it's a little bit different, but I do know that can happen, but it's not significant. And honestly, over a 24-month period, we're talking about $70 difference in the results that it's finding this time as for what it found the last time. Okay, but anyway, that's how the charts go through when you're using the strategy test to give you, you know, results that you can then use to project what you might have in the future. Okay, now again, it's a conundrum, okay, because future results cannot be promised from past results, but the only way you have to gauge future results is to look at past performance. Okay, so it's kind of a conundrum. But what we see with this particular pair is that in the month of January of 2022, we had no trades at all. Okay, I'm going to open this spreadsheet up so that we can see both of those first 2 months, or both of these two pairs. So what we see is that the AUD USD in January, okay, of 2022 had a great month, and the Euro USD didn't. It didn't have much of a month at all. But in fact, it had quite a few months over that 2-year time frame where the Euro USD pair didn't make any trades at all. Okay, and that's not unusual. You know, the pairs, they don't all make trades at the same time, right? So when we have a really good month here in December of 2022 in Euro USD, we didn't have much going on in the AUD pair, right? But the next month in January seems to be a good month for AUD USD. Okay, had a whopping month here in January of 23, and the Euro USD didn't make anything at all during that time. Okay, so anyway, all the pairs have their own unique movement patterns in them, and that's always been the case with Forex. It always will be the case with Forex. And so that's one of the reasons why we don't do all of our trading with just one pair. Okay, we trade 13 pairs. Now, you might wonder, how my Magic EAs keep from being over traded. Okay, and there is so much to that. But what we have in the EA, if you notice, I call these the dashboard boxes. See that you have to put the EA on every pair that you want to trade. But one of the dashboards is green and all the others are gray. That's because I use this first one, the AUD-USD pair, as the master for all of the others. And that's what keeps both the Magic version 56 and the new MegaMagic from getting over traded, because we have something that I call the account risk manager. And the account risk manager, when you set it up on the master, it will not allow the account to become over traded. Okay, it will stop allowing at-risk trades if the negative PL in the account gets more than whatever you want to set it at, or if it gets too many lots going on at one time. So we have all kinds of protections in here to keep accounts from getting over traded, which totally eliminates your risk of having a margin call. It's just not possible. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you in this video. I'm going to be posting some more with different aspects of the two EAs, the Mindy's Magic version 56, compared to the MegaMagic. So watch those other videos as well. And I look forward to talking to you more about my EAs. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.